Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum, and good day to everyone. On behalf of IATA, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers and the Dubai government for giving IATA the opportunity to present our narrative with respect to passengers with reduced mobility or accessible tourism. From an IATA perspective, just before the pandemic, 4.5 billion passengers flew each year. But for some of those physical or hidden disabilities makes it inconvenient or even a worrying or painful experience for them to travel. The airline industry, however, is committed to ensuring that safe, reliable, and dignified air travel is equally accessible to all passengers. Airlines and airports have been working with representative groups from the disabled community to make this journey as hassle-free as possible. We all know with the onslaught of COVID, air travel is taking its time to recover. And for that, IATA has developed a host of industry positions and surveys on accessible air travel, face coverings, as well as guidance material on facilitating passengers with reduced mobility. We've seen an influx or an introduction of additional health measures such as vaccinations and testing for passengers. And that is causing a strain not only on the travel ecosystem, but creating a complex web of different travel regulations. With that in mind, what I would like to touch upon is the need for harmonization when it comes to the disability legislation. We recognize we can and we should do more. One area of concern for us is the proliferation of different disability legislations across the globe, which creates not only confusion for passengers with disabilities, but difficulties for the airline community as well as the airports, and it also raises potential safety implications. Critically, there is no common definition of a passenger with a disability or agreement on the minimum service levels that we can expect when traveling by air. But what we do want to do is advocate for a joint government and industry approach that meets the needs of passengers with disabilities whilst ensuring a safe, efficient air transport industry. In particular, I have to highlight working with the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, ACI. IATA is campaigning with states to closely involve the airline industry in the inclusion of the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, the UNCRPD, international aviation legislation, and that policies related to accessible air transport are given priority by states. When it comes to consultation, it's imperative that governments, airports, airlines, when designing the passenger experience or the passenger facilitation experience, consult with the likes of IATA as well as the airline community so that passengers with reduced mobility or those that need special service requests are taken at the very core of designing that passenger experience. With that, the industry has also been evolving when it comes to special service requests. And one of the things we at IATA have been working on is gathering different stakeholders in terms of designing the future of disabled travel and how this will impact not only airports and airlines and passengers, but looking at it from the very beginning or the booking process itself. How do we look at the future of special service requests? What is it that we do with respect to tracking and ensuring that wheelchairs are equally treated when it comes to the baggage policy as well? And with that in mind, just before the pandemic, IATA held what we call the Air Hackathon for reduced mobility, which took place at the Microsoft headquarters in Seattle in February 2020, just before the COVID outbreak. And the objective was to bring together mentors from the disabled community, airlines, airports, travel agents, but also government policymakers to look at how we design special service requests, the needs of passengers with reduced mobility, how we augment the future travel experience, but also how we design policies and legislation with governments that help the facilitation of passengers with reduced mobility. So when we look to the future, emphasis is placed on creating an inclusive flying experience and specifically for ensuring that air travel is accessible for all travelers, including those with disabilities. IATA's focus on accessibility is integral to the efforts to restore confidence as we get out of the COVID pandemic, but also how we look towards the future. The pandemic is only temporary, but the needs of passengers with reduced mobility and the facilitation efforts are here to stay for a very long time. I would encourage the audience and all stakeholders to partner with us at IATA. We are in the region. We would very much love to partner with you and help you design that process, help you with our recommended practices, and also provide your industry guidance and expertise. What I would like to do is leave you with a short video to showcase when we held the hackathon in Seattle, bringing together airlines, airports, governments, and technology innovators, what the outcome of those, hackathon sessions were and where we see the future heading. With that, I would like to thank the organizers for giving IATA the opportunity and leave you with our view of how the future of passengers with reduced mobility and travel can commingle. Thank you very much. Daniel, back to you, sir.
Un avión militar en pruebas perdía el control minutos antes de la 1 de la tarde. Desde la cabina se avisaba.
Durante el despegue tuvimos un fallo de 3 de los 4 motores y eso hizo justamente después del despegue pues prácticamente tuviéramos que realizar un aterrizaje de emergencia. Íbamos 6 personas, 2 tuvimos la suerte de sobrevivir, 4 fallecieron. Los médicos en este caso son muy directos. Me dijeron, mira, no vas a volver a andar y bueno, vas a tener esta serie de limitaciones. Mi nombre es José Luis de Augusto, estudié piloto de transporte de líneas aéreas, ingeniero aeronáutico y terminé pues siendo y trabajando como ingeniero de ensayos en vuelos. Al final tu objetivo inicial es conseguir la autonomía.
Hey guys, TSS or TSS, do you want to mention or something? I was born with spina bifida, and I'm sort of an incomplete disability in the fact that I can feel almost 100%. I use a wheelchair for my mobility because my right hip is dislocated. I didn't feel like anybody understood me, and it wasn't until I was probably about 12 or 13 that I was introduced to adaptive sports, and so that changed my life. Because it exposed me to so many new experiences and other kids that understood and were going through the same things, and so that's kind of carried over into my life and what I like to do now as an adult for other people.
Para poder mejorar y dar un paso adelante y unificar criterios a nivel mundial es que haya información centralizada en algún punto para que cualquier organismo que toca la movilidad reducida en el mundo de la aviación comercial se nutra del mismo sistema y hable todo el mundo el mismo idioma.
So since I'm a YouTuber, a lot of times I do disability-related videos. I love sharing tips and tricks with people and things like that. I think if I had an opportunity to put that somewhere in a profile that's attached to me, then it would speed up the process because they already know how to help. This opportunity was a turning point because just being able to have companies take me seriously has been a huge turning point. I think the more collaborations I get to do, the more people will realize my intention, and that's an opportunity for me to share my message.
Identifying passengers with reduced mobility early in the booking process is a critical challenge that we're trying to solve towards creating more frictionless travel. Ultimately, the goal is to make travel easy for everyone, no matter who you are, where you're based, or where you want to go.
And if we can know in advance about somebody with some mobility issues, we can be there to assist them much better and have them find a seamless path through the airport to their gate.
One of the things that many passengers don't know is that through their travel experience, they're actually going between many different organizations who don't always have all the same information.
So being able to move freely in your environment means that people with disabilities have access to education, the ability to have their dream job, and certainly socialize and visit friends and family. And so we want to host this hackathon to really think about what that new, innovative solution is going to be to make travel more accessible and inclusive.
We want to make sure that all passengers, including passengers with limited mobility, are treated equally. We want to communicate with them. We want to understand if they have specific needs.
With knowledge and with information, we can make the journey of each traveller with those needs a personalised journey.
Ultimately, NDC is all about access and the sharing of information. So if you are a passenger that is coming to an airport and has an excess of information, you have to talk about your medical equipment, you have to talk about your mobility aid, and this is consistently being lost. So with NDC, the hope is that everyone can have access to this information.
What you end up with is rooms full of innovative people, like we've seen this weekend, building little apps which really solve mobility problems. We can finally start to see innovation from people that can really deliver innovation.
As a writer, as a YouTuber, as just a person with a disability, I try really hard to be a person that people can approach easily and can, communicate with and ask questions and not be afraid of judgment. I consider myself willing to put myself out there and experience new things, even when they're challenging. I think that's how I grow the most, is through going through circumstances that are sometimes scary.
Febrero de 2017 supuso un cambio radical para mí. Pude de nuevo experimentar la sensación de lo que es volar por primera vez, en este caso en un avión adaptado. Fue una sensación auténtica de libertad, la libertad de poder volver a recuperar aquello para lo que siempre me había gustado, que era volar.